Steve DeAir, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
So let's begin with the numbers here, because TikTok reportedly has over 1 billion monthly active users. Given the increased spread of misinformation and disinformation, talk to us about what TikTok is doing to combat those.
The safety and security and authenticity of TikTok is so important to us. And we know for a lot of users and Canadians, the reason they love TikTok is because of the authenticity of the content on the platform. When we think about the safety and security of the platform, we really break it down into three pillars. The first is protecting our community. And that starts with our community guidelines. That's a public document that applies globally that says what is and isn't allowed on the platform. And where we identify content that violates our community guidelines, it's removed. And we have a team of over 40,000 trust and safety professionals around the world working around the clock to remove that type of content. The second pillar is empowering our users. And that means giving them the tools to decide for themselves, do they want their content to be public? Who is able to send them direct messages? We really want to be able to fuel this responsible creativity amongst our users. And finally, the third pillar is learning. We learn from our community, and that includes a network of amazing organizations around the world that inform our product, inform our app, inform our policies. In Canada, some of the examples of organizations we work closely with are like Kids Help Phone and Media Smarts, really top organizations when it comes to thinking about youth safety and digital media literacy in general.
Okay, so that said, how much misinformation and disinformation is TikTok seeing on its app?
It's something that we're constantly vigilant about. As I said, we have over 40,000 trust and safety professionals that are working around the clock to remove mis and disinformation. When it comes to misinformation, really how we define it within our community guidelines, and what we're looking for is misinformation that can cause significant harm. That will be removed from the platform. An example of that would be like medical misinformation that could cause serious injury or death to somebody, or misinformation that could undermine an election or some other type of civic event. That is harmful misinformation, and we will remove that under our community guidelines.
Mm-hmm. Now, you referenced it off top. I'm wondering if you could dig into it a bit more about what TikTok is actually doing to educate users about the spread of misinformation and disinformation.
So we work with partners around the world. We actually have a network of over 19 global fact checkers. They operate in 50 languages around the world, and they help us assess the accuracy of things that are posted to TikTok. And then we can use that independent determination when making decisions about removing content under our misinformation policies. We also work with partners. I mentioned Media Smarts here in Canada. Just last month, we released with them our Guardian's Guide for TikTok. It's the first time we've done this type of project in Canada. And what that is a document for Canadian parents and guardians, particularly those who might not be on TikTok or aren't familiar with TikTok, and to help them understand the platform, some of the terminology, and in particular the settings that exist, and so they can have those conversations with their teens. We also offer something within the app called family pairing, and that allows the parent to control the privacy settings and screen time and things like that on their teen's device without having to actually wrestle the device away from them.
Okay. You know, I also want to talk about generative AI right now, and wondering if TikTok actually labels AI-generated content. Are there rules about the use of that content on your platform?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I mentioned earlier, TikTok is a place where people come for authenticity. We're known for the authenticity of the content that creators are posting and the creators themselves. And so when we think about generative AI and AI-generated content, we want our users to be able to know whether content they're seeing on TikTok is authentic or is it AI generated. And our community guidelines have a very clear rule that if you're uploading AI generated content that is realistic, then it has to be clearly labeled. And we were actually one of the first platforms to pioneer a tool to allow a creator, a user, to just a simple toggle when they're uploading the video will apply a badge to that video so that any user that sees it will know that it's AI generated content. That's something I'm starting to see more and more often in the app. Over 37 million creators have actually used that tool since we launched it last fall.
Okay. Now, 5 years ago, TikTok announced that it was banning politicians from election-related ads on the platform. Is that ban still in effect? And secondly, does it apply the same around the world?
Yeah, so our community guidelines govern everything on TikTok, and those are the same around the world, and they're the same for every user, politicians included. You're absolutely correct. We do not allow political or issue advertising on the platform. That is a global 365-day-a-year policy that applies, and that's because, again, the type of authentic, fun content that people come to TikTok for, that we know our community loves to engage with and watch, paid political advertising doesn't really fit into that. And so we made that decision that it's not something that we allow on the platform.
Okay, so you won't see that on the platform. And my next question, and I realize this is possibly a difficult one for TikTok, but your platform has been banned by several governments over cybersecurity concerns related to it being owned by someone based in China. What assurances can TikTok provide to countries like Canada that this platform will not be used by foreign state actors to interfere or to sow misinformation, disinformation leading up to and during an election?
We take those concerns really seriously, and we disagree with them because we are working extensively to ensure the security of our platform. Just to touch on a few things. We have not, and we never would, share Canadian user data with the Chinese government. We publish a transparency report twice a year that lists all of the government or law enforcement requests for information from us that require proper judicial authorization, and we've never received one from China, and we would refuse if we were to receive one. Canadian user data is stored in the United States, Singapore, Ireland, and Malaysia, period. Our parent company, ByteDance, is a private company. 3 of the 5 board members are Americans, and about 60% of ByteDance is owned by global institutional organizations, investors. 20% is owned by employees like me, and the other 20% are owned by our founders. When it comes to election interference, that's something we're very vigilant about. We've worked on over 150 major elections globally over the past few years. We're getting ready for the US election, obviously later this year, and the Canadian election to be coming pretty soon after that. In the 2021 election in Canada, we actually worked with Elections Canada to create a in-app hub for TikTok users that gave Canadians information on when, where, and how to vote. And that was authenticated information from Elections Canada, and it linked out to their website. And a link to that in-app hub appeared on every single election-related video that Canadians saw during the election. And that year in 2021, we were actually the only new platform to sign on to the Federal Privy Council Office's Canada Declaration on Election Integrity. And that outlined ways that platforms and the government would work together to counter things like misinformation.